Morning. Well, yesterday I got worked up. I was getting political. My subject is still the trades. And I think I'm going to say one more day today, but in real time, I think it'll be today and tomorrow. But I'm going to call it the 89th day of the fourth year. In theory, anyway, this could all be done maybe a double period in a classroom. And I'm still going to be political. Some things I wanted to add. The craftsman's memory. I tried, that's the first time I've actually tried to explain that to anybody, I think. It was here on camera. And I thought about it a little bit more. History, it seems to me, we're taught history begins with the first writing. Before that it was prehistory. Well, history is so much connected with words, whether they're written or spoken. Nowadays, I mean, in documentaries, you can teach and learn history, speaking it, not reading and writing it, but it's words, as you explained. You run it through the filter of words. Whereas there is another reality, another way of recording the past. There you go, another way of recording the past without using words. I mean, which I guess is obvious. Anyway, I sometimes shock people by saying that literacy is overrated. I was an English teacher in public school, and I was careful who I said that to, because people, a country prides itself in its literacy rate. Reading and writing, so important. If you can't read, you can't write. You must be stupid. Well, you see, I've seen the world from a different angle. And I knew many people in Brazil who were illiterate, had to make an X to sign a check and have somebody witness it. And there's some downsides. I hadn't better go into that now, but I've sometimes pointed out that Shakespeare's audience, probably most of those people, or many of them, probably most of them, were illiterate. And they inspired him with their appreciation to write those plays. All right. Well, for example, I've come up with examples of statements that come out from the craftsman's memory and legacy. The cave paintings at Lascaux, France, 30,000 BC, maybe 25,000 years before anything was written. Venus of Willendorf. A craftsman's hands did these, and they speak to us still. And Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is words. I taught about that in the first year, right at the beginning, Gilgamesh. At the end of that, this Gilgamesh hero, what does he do? Oh, he goes back to building his city, or at least boasting about the city he's building. Well, I'm still struggling with this. All right, now, I left this on from yesterday. There's an image I thought of I should maybe share with you. This idea of when you look one way, you see something. If you look another way, you see something so different. Well, I was in the woods one time. I never forgot it. I was walking up in the woods 40 years ago, maybe, up on a mountain, and it was spring, and there all of a sudden there was a squall, and there was this blinding, driven snow. And I turned my back to it and looked, and of course the woods were all basically black because, looking into it, I was looking and the woods were black because the trees the big trunks of trees were dark and you saw it black. Well, when I turned because of the snow and I went like this, the woods were completely white because the snow was driven onto those trunks and stuck there. So from that perspective, it looked, that point, it looked so different. I just thought I'd share that. Now, ironically, you might say, this morning, I woke up early and I turned the television on, which is ironic in a way with what I'm saying. Here I'm using electric lights and the internet and all that. Anyway, still, there was a 2-hour documentary on Thomas Edison. And I watched most of it. I didn't catch the beginning of it. But in a way, I find that sort of ironic because, he was, I'm going to call him a captain of power. And later on, I'll explain to you why I say that, captain of power. the hero of that age. You know, I've used him as an example before. If you want to understand the Victorian period, late 19th century, think of him as the hero and all that he did. Well, I just sort of put that in as ironic. All right, a paradigm shift. Back to this now. I didn't use the word paradigm shift. I said a change of viewpoint yesterday, I think. But if you start to see and understand and think about the world from this perspective, it really can involve a complete shift in paradigm. A paradigm is a way of organizing information. I teach that sometimes with the case endings in nouns with grammar. A paradigm shift. Well, it occurs now and then. These two I put in here. These are literary works, or this is a movie, Our Daily Bread. It was brought out in 1935 or so when things seemed to be failing. The Great Depression, the stock market had crashed, the Great Depression was in. And in Our Daily Bread, in this movie, a man has land, people start going by, and he's got the land. And he says, if you stay, you can work here with me. I'll give you a place to stay. Well, in a sense, what he did was he was assembling a village. One of the most critical guys of all was a farmer. You know, I put him down here. He's probably ultimately the most critical of all. Well, I guess I'd put him over here too. No, I wouldn't actually. I'd have to put him here. Because there was only one farmer. As a matter of fact, I guess in my paradigm, I'd put him there. Anyway, Our Daily Bread, I'm glad to know about that movie, this glorious ending with its water. I've used it in classrooms before. And The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. Well, you know, that was written back around that time, a little bit earlier maybe. And it was, in a sense, glorifying the jack of all trades. In a way, there was an engineer among those 7 or 8 guys, 6 or 7 guys on that marooned on the island, and he did all this stuff. So anyway, I'd throw that in there. Now, and add to, when I was saying that code and the guilds, and then code, and then insurance companies and banks, it all behooves them to work together. Well, you could add to that the stock market, advertising, you know, that does the convincing, even foundation grants. I mean, you know, maybe somebody would come along and give me, you know, $100,000 or $500,000 to finish what I'm doing. Why? You know, what would be in it for them? Because I'm looking this way, and these things tend to maintain the status quo, keep it stable. And some terms back from the 1960s, the establishment, when we were so against the Vietnam War, and there was this term military-industrial complex. It was serving the military and the industry together, and the stock market was serving them all together to keep that war going. I mean, it was the attitude of the 60s. The times they are changing, I think, is where the words that come in. Come mothers and fathers. Well, I don't know, or it could be, I don't know. All right, anyway, that's from yesterday. All right, now, today, actually, the main event and the final event in this whole thing about the trades is 3 sonnets that I wrote. I'm going to call them the Craftsman Sonnets. Now, I wrote them back in, about 1974 or something like that. They're to be found in this little book, published privately by my friend Mike Hernkane and I, the Dueling Poets. It was about 5. Well, in any case, I'm going to read them. But the 3 are called Diderot, The Riddle of the Craftsman, and The Extra Line, The Warrior, and The Balance. I'm not sure if I'll do it in this order. I may switch this order. But Diderot, I have already read in Frank's school. And I'm going to defer to myself, I think. Yeah. to my earlier self and say, if you want to hear the sonnet Diderot, well, go to that number on Frank School. Just put in that number, first year, 77th day, first video, and go to the 7th minute, the 7th second, and there's where I begin to read my to read my sonnet. At that time, I'm teaching about the writing of sonnets, and I don't go that much into why I would write a sonnet like that. I do a little bit, and I thought, well, why don't I make it easy for you and just read it again? And I thought, no, you might be interested in seeing what I looked like 3 years ago or more. All right, and then the other two, I think as I say, I'll probably in real time do them tomorrow, but I'm still going to call it the 89th day, so there'll be a second video and maybe even a third. All right, bye for now.